Welcome to our second week. In this week we will see a node that we will use a lot. It's a copy sub, and we will use it to reference object to points. We'll use it also in particles a lot, and we can use also variables and a couple of expressions to randomize, and we will apply this node to a Coke can. And so let's start by creating our Houdini file. Let's save a thing called week-02 instance English. Hit tab and create a geometry node. Let's name it can. And inside we'll have our file node. We work this model. It's an OBJ. So this node will allow us to import it to our scene without any issues. So let's do that. Let's hit $heap inside geo. You can get the model, and in the viewport space F, we'll see that we have a bottle and our can. What's next? Let's I want to get rid of the bottle, so let's middle click our OBJ node, and we can see that we have two primitive groups. One is bottle and the other for a can, so there's no problem, we can delete it without issues. Let's create a delete node. Let's delete the bottle, put the flags over it, and well, in this guy we can see the operation, delete selected and non-selected. For now, let's keep the entity type in primitives. We can also switch to points and edge. This is a very powerful node because you can delete with expressions, with bounding box, bounding volumes. There's a lot of cool stuff we can do here, but we'll see them later on. If we display the group names, we can see that we have the bottle of the can. Let's delete the bottle, and our next step is to transform our can to the center of the grid. And also we can see that the scale is extremely large. It's like 125 units. So let's move it to the center and scale it down. There's a guy here called move center to origin. This will allow us to center the pivot and also move the object to the center of the grid. That's what we want now. And also let's put down the scale to 0.025. Spacebar F, and here we have our can. Let's transform it so that the base is in the base of the grid, and name this node. Okay, let's save this. And next, what we will do is to convert this polygon to 100% compatible polygons with Houdini. So just by adding this convert now and leaving this by default into polygons, it's 100% compatible, so we won't have any issues when deleting or editing any component. And let's also create normals because when stamping points and when referencing points, the normals are very useful as they orient the object into the surface. And let's set them to point. Okay, now we have our object ready to start working the drops. So next, let's create. I want to delete some part of the can that won't have drops. I don't want them up here or here in the bottom, so just in the middle of the can. So just by selecting or clicking S, hitting S in your keyboard, or selecting here the selection tool, here you have a select primitive activated. You drag into your object, and with Shift G you can do a grow selection until you have selected the entire part where you want those drops. Over with your mouse in the viewport, just hit delete in your keyboard, and automatically glass node will be created. And we see that it deleted the selection. Also in the group you can see a couple of numbers. These are the primitive IDs that were deleted. So just by clicking delete non-selected, you can invert the selection. Okay, now we have our can, and we will add the points where we have where we want to add those drops. Let's use our old known node called scatter. This will place our points all over the surface. So what I prefer is just to turn off this relaxed iteration, so we have a random and nice placement points. And next we are going to create our copy stamp node. This guy will allow us to reference. In the first input you connect the geometry you want to reference, and in the second is the templates or the points where you just want to use as target. Let's create a sphere, and let's connect this and see what happens. Okay, the scale is too big, so if we move the scale down, we now can see that every single sphere is orientated over the point. I will create you a node here with this guy. You can create nodes, place them, and just type some stuff for you to remember, because we will start using some expressions and some variables. The first thing that we are going to use is the variable for the scale of each point. It will also useful when doing particles. So just by typing scale, this is the attribute that will drive the scale on each particle or point. So let's create an attribute. Attribute create. Let's place it between the scatter and the copy, and let's call it create scale attribute. Okay. Inside attribute name, scale is our guy. No capitals, just as as you see it here, p-scale. That's it. It will be a point value and a float, okay? Not an integer, because we will only use one value for the three axes, x, y, and z. In this case, our sphere disappears because our value is 0. If we put other value here, we will see that we will get the scale based on this number, okay? So let's add an expression, a quick one, not difficult. But we will need another variable, $pt, $scale drives scale of each point. P-scale is the variable to define each point number, okay? It's an easy one. So what we will do is generate a random of this point number. So every single drop will be a different scale. How we do this? Simply type rand for random and write $pt. Just make a random number of each point number. Now we can see that we have a nice variation of scale in every object. This is what we are looking for. And we can also add multipliers, divide, do whatever we want, just to make them smaller, make them bigger. We can edit this value. Okay. So well, now we have our drops. We will add some turbulence here just to the form. But the first thing we're gonna do is change the primitive type to polygon and add a bit more of frequency. Let's get over drops, because we will see a new node that we will also use it once and again. It's the point bob. This point bob works based on vex, and what it does, you can dive inside this node and you have the input of the object and the output of the object. In this case, we only have, if we middle click button here, we have only position. So we are able to use only this guy. If you want to use color or normals or UVs, you have to first of all define it in the previous geometry level. But for now we will keep it easy. We will also work on the position. Let's create a connection and type a turbulent noise. What this guy does, will add some random vibration to our sphere. And the options you have available is the kind of noise. This is 1D or 3D. We'll use 3D as we need to transform in all world directions, world space directions. And also the noise type. You can play around with these guys when we have everything connected. You can manage frequency, offset, amplitude of turbulence. These are the basic attributes you can use not only here in the point bobs, but also you can use them later on for example for particles. What's next? Let's create a node called displays along normal, so it will apply this deformation among the normals of the object. So you have to plug the noise to the amount of noise that we want, and displays to the position that this guy will be the new position of each point in space. Once plugged, we can see that the object shape changed a bit. Now we are able to play around with different amplitude, frequencies. You can play with offsets. So now we have some nice deform for each drop. Let's see now what happens if we activate the copy swap. Okay, we have like giant drops. That's definitely not what we want. We can start by decreasing a bit the scale. But the main problem we see now is that every drop is the exact same, has the exact same deformation, variation. There's no variation, there's no randomness in shape. So let's do that. What do we need to do in first instance? In order to add an expression or a variable, I need to have the attributes in the geometry level, not inside the point box. So you can promote values or channels or attributes so that you can visualize them in the geometry level. This is simple. We will promote the offset attribute just by creating this guy and promote parameter. Now we can't edit it. It's unable to edit it because you can modify it right here. So what I need now, I need to let's say randomize each point as we've done here in the scale, but inside this guy. This copy node, what allowed us is to create variables and define a value for that variable. You can do it inside stamp and turn on the stamp inputs. You can create all the variables you want. You have a lot of places to add, but let's start as variable 1 and create a variable called offset. We will save inside this variable an expression. We will write it here. It might sound a bit complex and difficult, but we will use this variable, this expression, thousands of times, I promise. Just write it down, put a sticky note near your monitor, because we will use it a lot. Fit 01. What this expression does, based on a number, we can make it fit between a value or a minimum and maximum. How does this work? Let's use the same expression as we use for the scale, ramp $pt. As first instance, we'll get a random, a number from here. It might be 0.5, 0.1, 0.75, I don't know. So you put a comma and you set a minimum value, comma, and a maximum value. So this is easy. This is the name of the expression. This is what we execute and get a number, and I want this devolution to fit between 1 and 100. Let's hit enter. Now this value offset has for each point a random value fit between 1 and 100. Okay, let me, just for you to know, copy here and put it in sticky note. And now I need to send this value to our offset. This is an easy one. It might sound a bit complex in the beginning, but you will get tired of writing it. You start by stamp. You said, and I need now to get the, let's say, the address of this copy node. So I need first to exit this position by adding 2 points, bar, and now I can set in my copy node, that is this one. It will appear here if it works good. Let's say a comma, and now I need to put the name of the attribute that we create, and also let's say we want to assign a default value. Not big deal, just one. Now so it's easy. It's stamp from stamp points, the address where I want to pick my variable, and an offset number. Yeah, default number. Hit enter. But we can see that we have a random also in shape. Let's copy and paste in the other 2 channels. And now we can see we have different shapes and size and some random stuff occurring here. So what we can do, let's name this a little bit better. Drop the form, because everything will happen here. What we can do, we can also promote these guys, just to play around with them without having to enter. I think that's nice for now. Promote parameter for this guy too. Okay. Now we have the same attributes that we have inside, and we can manage them and play with them a little bit better. Use a simple noise, and I don't know. We can set up the frequency. You can play around with this. You can probably change a bit. Frequencies. Well, now it depends on you to play a bit and get some nice drops in there. So let's copy this so you have everything in one same place. Let's make it bigger. Save this scene. The last thing we are going to do is let's pick up our can. Let's create a merge node. We are going to put everything together, the can and the drops. Let's plug it here in the merge node. You can plug all the connections that you want. It's just to put things together. And now we can see our drops over the surface. Probably it will be good to make a larger scale. Not that big. Okay. So here we have our nice random drops. Now it depends on you just to play around a bit. You can change the scatter, you can change the size, you can play around with the turbulence inside here, you can do a lot of stuff. So just take some time, play around, and well, in the next video we'll work a little bit of shading and lighting and see how we can get a final result, a nice cool render of this lesson. See you later. Okay guys, let's move forward a bit with this project. I will add a BG, or a basic environment. I will add an HDR, a couple of lights, we'll do shading and prepare everything for render, so we can show what we're working on. Let's start by creating a geometry. This would be the grid or the environment. Let's delete this node and type grid. Let's move the camera out a bit. And let's change the subdivision to so we don't have inner divisions. We'll extrude let's say the walls and add a little bevel. So the process to do that is go to the select tool or press S, and let's change the component to select edge. You can grab and select this corner, and we can apply a poly extrude right here, or just type it down. Let's click here and set some distance. We see that the extrusion is made outwards instead of upwards, so we have to change the extrusion mode to point normal, so the normal of the face is upwards, and we can set up a bigger value. So let's get things tidy. And what's next? Let's select again the three components now, and let's make a poly bevel. If we set up the offset, you can get the amount of bevel, and down here in fillet you can set up the divisions and also the mode, the shape. I think that a round would work good, so we get some nice curvature down here. We can probably add a couple more of divisions and smaller corners. We see that when we select our components, we can display them here. This is the group where this bevel would work. Just try deleting one of these groups, and you will see that the bevel will only be applied to the selections that appear right here. Let's undo. Okay, here is our base environment, no more than this. Okay, what's next? Let's add some lights. As we worked in the previous project, we'll add an environment light. We will connect an HDR. I leave you in the folder, in the text folder. I left you some HDR. You can test them and see what works better in your scene. You can also try with other HDR. It's not necessarily have to be this one. Here we have the intensity, so let's get a little bit lower because we will add other lights. From the environment part, this is cool. The other lights that I like a lot are the area lights, because of their softness and fall off. We will add a main light. In the handles, just as soon as you create it, you will get the handles. If you don't have it, you can turn that on by show handles, this button, and well, this guy will rotate and these arrows will translate. You can also edit those values from the transform tab and set them manually. We'll also, inside this light, we can select different types of lights, not only grid but also sunlight. We can set up a point light. You can play around and see what's the result of using these different lights. Let's give it a grid. You also have the intensity to manage. Down here there are some area light options. This is the size of the square. You can get a taller light probably, that will work a bit better. And regarding attenuation, this is the fall of the light. You can set it only also to non-attenuation, half distance. I prefer to keep it as physical correct, so we get a nice and smooth fall off. We'll make a test render right now, but let's name this better. And let's just copy paste, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And let's name it as secondary light. And let's move it just in the back part. Let's move a little in the view, just see what's going on. We are also able right now to create a camera, just position wherever it looks good, and under new camera, create a new camera. Right here now you see that you have a camera 1 and it appears in the node editor as camera 1. Render cam, it's our name. Okay, so now let's say I want to modify the position of this camera. If I move in the viewport, you will see the camera remains in the same position. You can select again by selecting render camera. If you want to edit the position, you have to click on this button, lock camera, and now you will see that the camera follows our navigation. Once you are happy with the new position, you just turn this guy off and you are free to move without modifying the position. You can also use the handles to change the position manually. Let's undo that and let's save this scene as 02. Okay, we have a camera, lights, basic shaders. Let's see what we get. Select render cam, auto create rope for the first time. Okay, we have no shaders, black drops, our can and our BG. Probably the can is underneath. Yeah, a bit the BG. So what you can do is add a transform node, or you can select the connection, hit tab, transform. You'll see that it's connected in the creation. You can visualize this node and transform it a bit down. Let's go back to our last node. Select camera. Okay, now we are better. Next step, it's going to be creating our shaders. Let's create 3 shaders. Sorry about that. We will create 2, and 1 extra guy we will use the aluminum for the can. You can also test all these pre-made shaders that work pretty good, but in these 2 cases, for the drops and the level, we'll generate from scratch. Okay, we have our material library here. It's under matte. Our first shader, it will be the label drops, and let's leave an aluminum as aluminum. Okay, now we have to assign each shader to each object. Let's dive into can. And now we'll have to create a material node. You can create it again just by hitting material, or the other thing you can do is just copy paste for now. Once we made the connections, a small yellow guy appears here. This can be a problem in the render. It means that if you hit a middle click mouse, it says warning, there's a mismatch of the attributes. Let's say that we have a normal UVs in this input, but we don't have the same attributes here. You always have in a merge to have the same attributes, so that there's no problem later on. So we have to create 2 attributes, as if we hit middle click mouse here. I only have position. We need to add normals and UVs. That's easy. Let's create a normal node. And let's create a UV project. As we don't need the drops to have texture, it's just a basic shader. Let's leave it as it is. The important thing is that everything is these new vertex attributes are the same vertex attributes as in here. Well, here we have normal in the point attribute, so let's move it to the point attribute. Now we hit middle click here, and we only have the show material path. This is only a matter of connections, so let's connect our materials. Dive inside matte and hit level. And for these guys, material, and select the drops. So here we create the normal. Here we create the UVs. And this is the drop shader. Perfect. So now we see, once the materials are created, that we don't have any mismatch. Let's start building up the shaders. What we will need here is to add metallic refractions, as this can is 100% metallic. You will see how it updates in the viewport the reflections. And also we need to look for our textures. Inside the textures you can map base, color, and metallic are both textures that we have to connect. So it's simple as clicking use textures and look for them in the hard drive. This is the red can diffuse. And now inside metallic we turn it on, dive inside our folder, text folder, and here you have the reflection texture. Awesome. So right now, if we go back to our can and set up the visibility and render flag to this point, we can make a render and see what's going on. Okay, what's happened now is that we need to assign aluminum shader to this part and also to the bottom part. So what we are going to do is something similar we made in here to delete primitives. Let's keep the level in one pass and the aluminum in another one. Let's save. Okay, let's go to set normal node. With space 3, we go to the front view. And what we're going to do is to select the region we want to get affected by the level, and the opposite will be the selection for the aluminum shader. Let's select this guy and hit delete. A blast node will be created. If just by shaking the node it will disconnect, you can also right click and disconnect option, or simply by connecting this guy to the output it will disconnect. It will do a force disconnection. So let's name this guy delete aluminum. We need to delete non-selected because I want for this part to be the level, and we can copy paste and do the opposite, the aluminum. Now the process is pretty simple. What we can do is just copy paste this shader, redirect the connection, name it as aluminum shader, and let's pick up our aluminum and connect it to our mesh. Now we have aluminum, we have our level, and now we have to work the drops. Let's see what we got till here. Let's save our scene. Okay, that's pretty interesting. We have our concrete drops, and we can click the area that we want to continue render, and we'll see that we have the aluminum shader exactly where we want it. Okay, perfect. Other thing that I see right now is that the level is a bit dark. Let's go to our shader, and what is bothering to us is the under surface, the base colors that is set up to gray. We need to put it up to white because it's working as a multiplier. So now we're getting a nice result. Let's continue working the drops. This is also easy, not big deal. The only thing that we have to turn on for now is transparency. This will activate refractions. We can also set up a little bit the roughness, so our reflection is not that blurry. Let's put them in 0.1. And what I will do is create a new camera. Let's go to the space one. We go back to a perspective view and we create a new camera just to visualize the drops as near as possible. We'll use this camera to see what's going on. We should start getting our drops. We will notice one issue. The issue is that the drops are getting dark. This is because there's a shadow inside the drops when it gets in contact with the can, and this generates our black areas. There are two ways of fixing this. One is getting real caustics that will be a bit expensive in terms of render. We can do a fake caustics. This can be managed from the drop shader. If we dive into opacity, we have an option here that is fake caustics. Let's save this, let's snap this viewport result just to see what different we get once we turn it on. And now we'll see that the dark areas disappear. Right here you can see the different, now the drops are working very good. Okay, so now that we know that everything's fine, let's see a general render. And what we can do now is add another pass of drops. I prefer to manage set up a little bit the amount of medium size and add a couple of large ones. This is pretty good. Okay, so let's work a bit this drop modification. What I want to do also is to rotate a bit the can. Inside can transform, we can rotate it a a bit so that the Coca-Cola logo is placed better. Okay. So now this is simple. I will also work a bit the lights. I don't like how they are. I probably set up a little bit the environment light. Let's do that later. So okay, what we have here is medium scale drops. We set them, remember that we set them here, and the amount is set up here. Let's put the value up, let's say to 3500, and what we can do is copy paste this drop path, and this is simple. We can only get I don't know, let's say 250 drops, but a larger size. We can merge, and now we have the small drops and the big drops, everything merged, connected to the copy, and this will take a bit more to cook. But now we will see that we have bigger drops and smaller ones. What I will also do is set up a bit higher the... In terms of lighting, I prefer to keep things simple and fast. So probably we can leave only the level turn on for a quick test. What I can do is move this main light a bit. Remember, you can use the handles and you have transform, rotation, everything in the same place. Okay, let's move the light probably a bit. I would like to get another reflection there, and also the secondary light. Okay. Let's make a quick test. See how it looks now. But okay, feel free just to add some lights, change the HDR, change the clan texture. You can play around with the shader. You can change the camera, you can do a nice close-up. Let's activate this guy. The secondary light is a bit high. And also this one, let's put it a bit down. You can also rotate the HDR so as to get nice reflections. This depends 100% on how is the HDR is placed. So okay, let's leave it now as it is, but play around, and well, you have a lot of options and ways to move. Let's go back to our merge node, save what was in, turn off, and let's make our render. think that's it for now. Everything is working. You can also add another pass of even smaller and more amount of drops. I will set up the HDR a bit, a bit lower. But well, this is our final result. Okay, play around, take a look, and post your can in Facebook so as to get some feedback. Let's finish the render, and this week is over. Let's move forward to the next one.